Jefferson Reed's morning as a teacher begins as usual with the sound of his alarm clock and the barking of his dog Ellington. After saying hello to all the neighbors, Reed goes to work at school, where his friend Michael invites his buddy to perform a jazz concert at a club in the evening. The guy's mood takes a turn for the worse. The principal calls him to his office to report a complaint from the parents of one of the students. The guy stopped fighting off bullies on Reed's advice, and now he's sitting around with fractures and abrasions. After work, Jefferson meets with his family, and his mother reminds him of a neighborhood meeting at which they will decide how to fight the Golden Lords gangster group that holds the neighborhood in fear. During the conversation, the Golden Lords show up in front of the Reed family, and Jeff offers to switch sides, but the boy's father gets involved with the hoodlums himself to ruin the deal to sell illegal substances. A police car saves the old man, but the gangsters promise Ted a quick meeting. Jefferson is going to a concert, but his car is out of gas and he has to go to a meeting to borrow money from his parents. When the guy returns, the car is not only missing gasoline, the hooligans have managed to steal a stereo and a double bass. From a dark alley, Jefferson hears a woman screaming and goes to help. Reed notices the two little ruffians, but when he gets close, a whole army of Golden Lords appears out of the darkness. Reed flees and has to hide in a dumpster. One of the hooligans finds him, but does not turn him into his ringleaders. 6 hours pass before Jefferson decides to come out of hiding. After looking around, the guy is about to go home, but suddenly everything lights up green and he sees a fiery meteorite flying at him. There's no escape from the space rock. It pins Jeff against the wall and burns him inside. All this is seen by a homeless man who lives in the back alley. He calls an ambulance, but before he does, he picks up the rest of the meteorite from the ground. Jefferson is brought to the hospital with severe burns, and all night the doctors save his life. When the guy is transferred to his room, Michael comes to him and prays for his friend, remembering to take time with the pretty nurse Vanessa. Vanessa tells Jefferson that his condition is improving rapidly. At the same time, the other doctors look at the patient's scans and tests with amazement. Upon waking up, Reed sees a crowd of doctors around him who don't understand how this is possible. There is not a single scar on the guy's face, and his body has recovered overnight. One of the doctors thinks it's caused by stress, but during the conversation, Jeff accidentally touches a medical textbook and he dismisses this version. In the evening, Reed is left alone in the room, and he realizes that he can now see through the walls and through people's clothes. Jefferson decides to use his superpower and summons the haughty Vanessa, but instead a fat old nurse comes into the room and the guy has to close his eyes to avoid seeing what she has under her robe. Simon Kane, the leader of the Golden Lords, gathers the gang and announces to them that they have successfully occupied the market of illegal substances and now he wants to conquer New York. The gangster immediately reports this to his boss, Mr. Byers. Jefferson returns home and the first thing he's gonna do is feed the dog. But when Ellington starts barking, the guy understands everything the dog says and can answer him. Reed tells Michael about it, but at first his friend doesn't believe him, and only when Jeff touches the magazine and tells his buddy what it says, the guy realizes that Reed has gained superpowers. At the same time, the homeless man opens a box with a rock and, charged with the power of his mind, takes a cup to make him coffee. Jefferson's father finds himself alone on the street and attacked by a gang. Jeff sits in the teacher's lounge in a meeting and examines his female colleagues, telling Michael what they have under their clothes. But then he has to be distracted. Through the walls, Reed sees school children wreck his car. When the teacher reaches the house on foot, he sees his father with signs of a beating. At this point, the Golden Lord's car stops nearby, and when they're about to attack the family again, Jeff spreads them out with his bare hands. In the morning, Jeff walks to work. In the alley, he's overtaken by gangsters who open fire, but not a single bullet hurts Reed. The gangsters return, but Jeff jumps from them onto a lamppost where more trouble awaits him. A couple think he's peeking at their window. Jumping off the pole, Reed smashes the asphalt and blows out the windows in the houses. There's talk of an earthquake on TV, but Jeff tells his father the truth, and the old man thinks his son should now help the world fight crime. His mother has sewn him a shiny superhero costume to do so. Simon doesn't believe the story about the impenetrable Reed, and he orders the mercenaries to put the guy under surveillance. At the meeting, everyone thanks Jefferson for his help, and the locals appoint him savior of the town and assign him to patrol the streets every day, fighting the Golden Lords. During the meeting, a photographer takes memorable pictures, but they show Jeff as a green blur. Reed is about to tell everyone that he doesn't want to be a superhero, but when he gets home, he finds out that bandits attacked his roommate, and the guy promises not to let that happen again. Jeff's mom keeps sewing him costumes, and Michael helps him train to fly. The neighbors are supportive of the guy, and he happily shows them his abilities by frying eggs with his laser eyes. Finally, Jeff flies into town, patrolling the streets. The superhero finds a bandit factory and ruins it by blowing away all the powder. He stops the robbers, helps the cops in a shootout, and helps the locals. There is a lot of talk on TV about the new hero, and many imposters show up in town. Byers learns of the $1 million damage the flying hero has done to his illicit substance factory. The businessman sets a reward for catching the Meteor Man. At night, Reed clears a small patch of landfill and creates a vegetable garden, forcing a cloud to water it at once. Already in the morning, reporters gather outside the garden to show off the huge fruit, capable of feeding thousands of people. Jeff stays late after school, checking the students' notebooks, when suddenly a gang enters his office, and Simon is going to reprisal the teacher, guessing that he is the Meteor Man. To his friend's aid comes Michael, who pretends to have heard another news story about a superhero, and comes to Jeff to tell it. While Reed is sleeping, someone sneaks into his apartment and steals his suit. On the radio, Jeff hears another liar being interviewed, and this time, he recognizes his friend, Michael. Simon also hears the Meteor Man interview, and the gang arrives at the mall. Jeff tries to help his buddy, but his strength is not enough to knock the guns out of the hands of the bandits. The guy manages to move his friend away from the gangsters, but Simon notices who is controlling Michael. His parents throw Jeff a party, where neighbors ask him to help their relatives in other towns as well. Reed doesn't have time to answer anything. A gunshot rings out outside, and the guy finds his mother in Simon's arms. The bandits open fire on the crowd, and Jeff saves everyone, but there is blood in his hand, and the guy realizes that he's losing his power. Michael goes to his friend to apologize, and when he sees the wound, he too guesses that the power is gone. Reed admits to feeling very tired and wants to leave early to get some sleep. The Golden Lords and Byers himself come to see Jeff, but Ellington manages to hide the boy. Simon tells the host that the hero is losing his powers and he will soon be in their hands. Upon waking up, Jeff goes for a walk and sees that the Golden Lords have trashed the whole neighborhood. The guy goes to a meeting and hears that the neighbors blame him for everything. They think that if they expel the superhero, they can negotiate with the bandits. Jeff packs his bags, believing himself to be the loser. But the Golden Lords have other plans. Having tracked the guy down, they prepare an operation to capture him. Simon calls for the Meteor Man and Jeff agrees to come out, not wanting to hide. None of the neighbors try to stop him. The bullies mob attack Reed, and a homeless man sleeping in the basement hears this. Using his power, he gathers a pack of dogs and goes to help his colleague, taking a rock with him. Simon picks up a gun and is about to end the fight, but Reed's old neighbor stands up for the guy. The two little bullies also cross over and take Simon's gun, protecting the Meteor Man. A homeless man shows up on the street. He takes everyone's guns away and pounces on the dogs. The rest of the neighbors don't hide anymore either. Armed with whatever they can, they go out to war with the gangsters. One of the old ladies throws a rock at the gangsters and it hits a jar in the hands of a homeless man, from which a meteorite falls out. Reed notices it and tries to reach out to get the powder, but Simon sees the space object too and grabs it at the same time as Jeff. The rivals are now evenly matched in strength, and Jeff finds it harder to fight back. A book of wrestling lessons helps him. By touching it, Reed masters the art, but the action quickly ends. Simon's mercenary tries to defeat the Meteor Man, but instead, he breaks his arms and teeth against him. Reed tries to study the book again, but this time both he and Simon get seduction lessons, and the fighters behave strangely in front of everyone. Ellington comes out to help his master, but Simon also helps the dog and gets rid of Reed's four-legged friend, after which he throws the guy himself on the roof, declaring himself the hero. Jefferson shows up in a super suit and knocks Simon off his feet. Grabbing the villain by the wrists, Reed takes away Superpowers and disperses his gang, leaving everyone without pants. When it's over, Jeff runs up to the dog, but he can't help him. The superpower is gone again. Then the dog is rescued by a homeless man, but he too has to use up all his charge. Byers arrives on the scene with a mob of mercenaries. They're going to destroy the superhero, but the local gang comes to his aid, who are on the right track after meeting with the Meteor Man. The whole gang is arrested by the police.